Hey everybody, how's it going? So a lot of you have been asking me about this piece of news that just came out recently about the UK passing a right to repair law and wanted to know what I thought of it. So this is a bill or a law that I covered a few months ago. There's two pieces of news here. The first piece of news to go over is the piece of news where they announce that this rule has passed, and the second is when this came out several months ago. So I originally covered this on March 10th, around March 10th, and I said a word about Europe's push for right to repair and my concerns regarding its viability. So this law seeks to ensure that parts and things like that are made available so that items can be repaired, and they had a focus in this bill on appliances. There were, things like a refrigerator, a washing machine, a dryer, a dishwasher. This bill wasn't focusing on cell phones, cars, tractors, and things of that nature. So in this video that I did a few months ago, my primary concern was around the requirement that parts be made available for 10 years. And the reason that I had just a bit of an issue with this is because of the talking point that right to repair makes things more expensive. So I wanted to discuss that, and all I ask is that you listen to everything before you immediately post a comment saying that I'm some sort of anti-right to repair shill. So there's the talking point that right to repair makes things more expensive. And what I said, my concern is if you require that parts be made available for 10 years in the consumer electronics repair industry, that would result in increased prices to the consumer for a number of reasons. The primary one is that it is impossible to be in exact compliance with this type of law. You are either going to, A, have less parts than you actually need to last 10 years. So maybe you run out of Core 2 Duo CPUs or CCFL fluorescent backlit screens in 8.5 years. And now you will be sued by the government because you were not in compliance with the law. Or B, you will overshoot, you will have too many parts in stock, meaning that you will be like where I was with my screen company. So in my basement, I have B154 PW01V0 screens that are for a 2006 MacBook Pro. I will never get rid of those screens, ever. I paid $72 a piece for them. Nobody in their right mind would buy that screen for even 50% what I paid for them, because an A1150 MacBook Pro, when it works, is worth about $50. So I overshot. I bought too many. And as a result, my costs went up because now I have inventory that I can never get rid of. And what most companies are going to do when they have a loss is they make up for it somewhere else. So whether they are sued by the government because they keep too few pieces in stock, or they have too many in stock because they bought too many, one way or the other, that will increase the cost of the company. And when the costs are increased to the company, they pass that on to the consumer. So it was very important for me when drafting right to repair legislation that I draft something that does not increase the cost to the manufacturer 1 penny. I strongly believe that consumer electronics right to repair can be done without costing the manufacturer a single cent. So the bills that I have drafted are drafted in a way, or the bills that I've reviewed that other people have drafted, I should say, because it's not like I'm not the one sitting here like typing this shit out. Or when I review other people's drafts and I suggest edits and so on and so forth, none of these bills are created in a way where there's any point at which the manufacturer's cost would be increased. So it's important that that talking point be removed. Now, people have said, well, this only applies to appliances. It does not apply to consumer electronics like an iPhone or a MacBook or a ThinkPad or a Dell XPS, so that makes it a fail. And this, a bunch of people have been linking me to this 9 to 5 Mac article saying British right to repair law comes into force today but excludes smartphones, and a lot of the comments were saying, I wonder if there was lobbying that went on and blah, blah, blah. And the thing to go over here is that there is a serious difference between home appliances and consumer electronics. So with consumer electronics, there is a change every 6 to 8 months or so in what is going into these devices. The refresh cycle for home appliances is considerably different. You may have home appliances where a device made this year is still using some of the same parts as something made 4 or 5 years ago. Whereas in consumer electronics, as you could see with, let's say, the evolution from the A1181 MacBook to the A1278 MacBook, in the time between those two machines, fluorescent backlit screens just stopped being made. They're just not made by anybody. So even if you wanted to, if Apple wanted to go to LG and say, "Hey, make more of these for us," they're done, because they're done making fluorescent backlit screens. That technology is gone. Nobody's making it. It would be like asking Intel to create a Core 2 Duo CPU in 2021. It's just not something that is feasible. It's not something that's going to happen. So what they have to do is they have to stock a part that is specific to this machine, that is not going to be used in next year's model, that may not be produced by next year, which means they're going to have to stock a lot of stuff that it's questionable as to whether or not they are going to use that stuff. And that is something that actually would increase the cost of the manufacturers. What I'm asking for in our right to repair is just make this stuff available. I'm not asking for it to be available for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, or 6 months. I'm simply saying make it available. If you make the parts available, then the repair shops and the companies that sell to repair shops, let Asset Genie, AG Parts, Mobile Centrics, Injured Gadgets, Mouser.com, DigiKey, Newark, they are going to understand how many of these chips they need to buy, how many of these screens they need to buy based on the demand from their customers. And they're going to ensure that they have enough to service their customers. Not too much that they're going to be saddled with B154 PW01s like a jackass like me is in 2021. Not too few that they miss out on repairs into the future. Mandating the manufacturer to stock everything, that's something that may work with home appliances, but that I don't think would translate over to consumer electronics as well. So a lot of people have been saying, isn't this a failure? Isn't this lame that that this bill or this law was passed, but they excluded consumer electronics? That's a loss. I don't think so at all. So they're advocating for a farm, agricultural right to repair bill in Montana and in Nebraska. And when they were advocating for that bill, I didn't say, wow, what a fail. I can't believe Kevin Kenny is testifying on behalf of a bill that doesn't include me. When I advocate on behalf of a consumer electronics bill that doesn't include agriculture, they don't say, wow, what a douche. Lewis is pushing for a bill that excludes us. When the medical right to repair people are advocating for a bill so that they can do endoscope repair and ER equipment repair, they are not. I'm not looking at them and saying, how lame, you're not including ThinkPads and MacBooks. There are subtle differences in these different fields that are going to require different legislation so that the legislation that is produced is fair. So it's really easy to say in this instance, this legislation is a fail because it doesn't cover the devices that I want it to cover. In reality, it simply may be that this law, as proposed, is a law that makes sense for home appliances, but may not be as effective, may not be as robust, as Charlie Brown would say, when it comes to consumer electronics repair. And the differences in the product life cycle for consumer electronics versus home appliances means that you're going to want to have a different bill. Now, am I saying that when you buy a laptop or a cell phone that it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be able to buy a part after 5 to 10 years? Absolutely no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that with technology evolving as fast and quickly as it is, and certain devices, certain battery technology, certain screen technology literally not being made available anymore 3 years later because they moved on, they have different factories fabricating something else, that it's not going to be as feasible for the manufacturer to stock everything. I'm for an approach where if ScreenCountry.com or LaptopScreen.com wants to go over to LG and say, hey, while you're still making this screen, while you still have all the fabrication stuff up for it, we want to stock 30,000 of this because we project that we are going to need approximately 30,000 of this. That's the type of right to repair for consumer electronics that I think is sustainable. Or if I go to Intersil and say, hey, while you are still fabricating this chip, I could use 10,000 or 30,000 or a million or 1,000 of it. That's the type of consumer electronics right to repair that I think is sustainable. But the requirement to stock parts for 10 years is something where it may make it actually does enable you to have that talking point from the manufacturer saying that it will increase the cost of the electronics, and that is something that will result in a culture war-like consumer backlash that and when you see how things work in politics and with like the whole culture war backlashes against things because of these perceived reasons, I want to pass a right to repair for consumer electronics that's fundamentally sustainable, that doesn't have any maleffects, that doesn't result in a culture war backlash. And when they passed an automotive right to repair bill in 2012 and again in 2020, they were very careful in crafting the legislation to ensure that there were not going to be any unintended negative consequences. And 9 years later, you don't have any unintended negative consequences that have negatively affected consumers. So I don't consider it to be a loss that they passed a bill that excluded consumer electronics. I see this as a good thing. Okay, good. You passed a bill for home appliances. Now, once you show that the sky doesn't fall with home appliances, then we can work on a right to repair law for consumer electronics. And that right to repair law for consumer electronics may be adjusted to represent the reality of doing business in that field in a way that is fair to both the manufacturer and repair people. And I do think that you can come up with a bill that is fair to everybody. It doesn't have to be a compromise. It doesn't have to be something where we're giving something up in order for the manufacturer to get something. You can draft legislation for consumer electronics right to repair that is fair to the manufacturer, that doesn't burden the manufacturer, while simultaneously allowing people like me to be able to get everything I need so that I can do the work that I do for my customers. And so I don't think it's a fail. And reading through this, it's a bit interesting because you have someone who is saying that it's going to make appliances more expensive, but he actually doesn't care. So he says one company said the legislation could make appliances more expensive. John Elliott, executive chairman of EBAC, said his business had always focused on the long-term reliability of a product. We don't look to make the cheapest washing machine. We look for one that's going to do the job and last a long time. The firm has been manufacturing this for a long time. Our focus is reliability, not just the low initial cost. The secret of a product that's easy to repair and long-lasting is the design. He said that it won't make much difference to his business, but it will to competitors who've been in a race to the bottom on prices for many white goods. I can't think of one example where we could not repair a product, he added. I checked and the oldest machine we repaired is 25 years old. So this is interesting because this may, if other companies are forced to make products that actually last, then if they have a business model that's based on you constantly buying a new one, they may be forced to change that, which may put them on a more level playing field with appliance manufacturers that are a bit more moral and ethical, that are actually designing things to last. So they don't seem to be against it because they're already making goods that are repairable. Now, also, one thing to keep in mind is that this legislation is primarily for repair shops, not consumers. That's another thing to go over here, that they are focusing on repair businesses more than they are consumers. So it says the government hasn't given consumers such right, as the spare parts and repairability criteria are only directed at professional repairers, not the people who own the products. This is still good for consumers because at the end of the day, the consumer now gets to choose between an independent service center and the manufacturer, but the consumer is still not the one that's being focused on in this legislation. Also, I fully expect that whoever wrote this article is going to get sent away at some point in time because of this little tidbit that was added at the end that I was very surprised has not resulted in a giant, raging, angry backlash here. It says at the end of it, men said they felt more comfortable than women in trying to fix appliances across the board. Like, that's just, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut there because I don't want my YouTube channel deleted. But I'm surprised that managed to sneak its way into an article in 2021, given the general world political climate that we are in. What do you think, Mr. Clinton? Whoa, he just gave me a silent meow. Are you being censored, Mr. Clinton? Clinton? Clinton. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.